You might be training for your biggest race yet, or maybe you're just curious what it really takes to survive something like the Unbound 200. Either way, this video is for you. You will see what happens when things don't go as planned and what you can learn from it. From bike choices to race day decisions to the mindset you need when it all starts to unravel. I'm sharing it all. If you want real talk, honest lessons, and tips to help you go farther, faster, and smarter, keep watching. This might just save your race.
Hey, if you come to learn about Unbound, specifically the 200, and find out whether it's the right race for you, you come to the right spot. We're here to talk about Unbound 200, specifically my experience in 2025, how it went for me, what I suggest, and coming from a triathlete's perspective where I do most things on the road, how did I transition to doing a gravel ride, and what was successful, what was not. So tune in, we're going to go through everything, the good, bad, and ugly for this race, and let's jump into it. So give you a little bit of background so you know where I'm coming from. If you're somebody on the street doing triathlons, if you've done sprints, you want to go out and do this 200, Unbound 200, or if you've done Ironman, and you want to come over and do 200, Unbound 200, or the XL, or even the 50 or the 100, kind of does my experience relate to yours. So a little bit of background. I've been coaching triathletes and endurance athletes in general since 2012. So preemptively, I should know better about my training and what I should have done to be more successful than probably I was. But been coaching since 2012, completed 13 Ironman races, done 17 7.3s, getting ready to do my 18th here at Des Moines, time of recording this video. And I've done like over 100 plus just multi sports, 5Ks, duathlons, triathlons, everything in between, cycling races, and just other events. So got a little bit of experience in the endurance world. So just wanted to get that out there. So just real quick, we're going to jump through it. The recap of kind of my experience, and we're kind of going to go through the list and real quick. And as always, if you got comments or questions later, I didn't go through an experience you're kind of curious about, put them in the comments wherever you're seeing this video at. Posting on YouTube, Facebook, whatever. So if you follow me on YouTube, I posted like during the actual race, some experiences I had that would be some good tips for racers later. But as you'll see here, didn't quite get the job done at the 200. So I got in via the lottery, signed up for the 200 in the lottery in November of 2024. And then I believe they released those in January or February of 2025. So that's how I did it. I didn't qualify, didn't do other races, I didn't do charity slots or anything like that. Got into the lottery, first time I ever applied, got the 200. So didn't really think I would get in, so I planned the rest of my year not thinking that I would get in because, as you see, I signed up for 7.3 the following weekend. So I knew it was going to, if I got in, I was going to be able to do it, but I also knew that I had this race at the time. I'm needing 70.3 it's local to me, it's a 3-hour drive from Kansas City. Need to get it done so I can keep my Kona qualification for legacy status for this is my 2025 race to race in 2026 for Kona. So I need to do Des Moines no matter what. I knew it was dicey to try to do Unbound the weekend before, and hopefully everything worked out. As you can see, I thought I could do it. Only got to mile 96. It just started going slower and slower. Started off really good, really strong. First 30, 40 miles felt pretty good. And then it started wearing on me, the heavy pack, the gravel riding, the incessant hills. We'll kind of go over that a little bit later. There was more hills than I really cared for. Got to mile 96 and it became a question of I could probably muddle through and finish it and under the cutoff, but was that going to set me up for success or failure to do 70.3 Des Moines? And in the grand scheme, be able to be functional the next day. I probably would finish like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and then have to drive to Kansas City because I drove there to do the race, and then be functional to do family activities on Sunday and then go to work on Monday and have a normal week and then drive up to Des Moines on Friday and do that race next Sunday. So at mile 96, I decided to go ahead and pull the plug. I felt pretty decent. Legs felt good. Legs felt great. My back was sore. My shoulders were sore. It was just probably the best thing strategically and mentally to do. I don't like doing that. I was very frustrated to just ask my friends and saw me at the finish line. I did not want to have a DNF for that event, but I think in hindsight, we'll go through kind of what I would recommend later if you're going to try to get in a lottery, how you should handle maybe your season around this type of event. But I would have handled it a little bit differently. But I walked a lot of the hills towards the end when I was at mile 96. There was a point where I was probably walking them fast tracking right up them, and it was just more efficient and actually get my back a rest. And I'll kind of go over that stuff later. I used crew for hire, self-supported, went by myself. I just drove down by myself. It was a good thing I used crew for hire because they got me eventually. So we're going to go over that. I did do it with a 20-year-old full suspension mountain bike in all transparency. People thought I was out there flexing, but I was not. Not flexing whatsoever. That is the bike I had, and I decided to go with it because I did not and want to invest. Unbound 200 is more like a bucket list type of activity, so I didn't want to invest in a nice or super expensive bike. Already got enough bikes. Already got a triathlon bike, road bike, mountain bike. Didn't need another bike. But in retrospect, maybe that would have helped me get a little bit further. Probably not to the finish line, but it made it a little bit more successful. This was my first real gravel event. I've ridden on gravel roads on a mountain bike and stuff like that, but this is the first long course endurance event doing on gravel. So this is my first true experience doing this. Kansas, you think it's flat? It's not. In Kansas, once you go south, you're still in forested areas, treat areas, vegetation, single track roads, hills. So don't be fooled thinking you're going to go into, if you're going to try to unbound 200, 100, 350, whatever, don't think you're coming into the flat terrain because you're not. So make sure you keep that in mind. Now, this year we did get lucky with the weather. It rained a little bit like a week before, but pretty much we had a full week for it all to dry out. There were some muddy sections that did cause some wrecks and some injuries for some people. But if you were not in crowds, it really wasn't that bad. I did get a little bit muddy, a little bit dirty, but at one of the aid stations I had a power washer wash my bike, and I was good to go. So there was some mud, but it was not a mud fest. It didn't rain. It wasn't cold. It was actually kind of hot. One of the warmer days that we had in Kansas. So that was nice. And like I mentioned, I drove down from Kansas City, so it was about an hour and 15-minute drive. So I didn't see the point necessarily in spending the money and the resources to stay overnight, leaving for the family. Instead, I just drove down race morning, which wasn't horrible. The race started at 6:30, so I left at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:45, something like that. Got there plenty of time, got parked, found a good parking space, was able to get ready, go to porta potties, all that fun stuff. So that, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So just to recap overall, there are plenty of wrecks. I rode by a few people that pretty much there's some broken collarbones, people go over handlebars, stuck in the mud. There was wrecks out there, so just be ready for that. There's 1,300 people doing the 200 or something crazy like that. And when you get that many people on double track, basically a single track road rut or tire ruts, and you all have to stay in that line, if somebody goes down and you're not slowing down in time or you're riding their tail, you're going to go down with them. So keep in mind that there was plenty of opportunities. Like when I rode through, I actually took a pee break off in the tree somewhere, and by that time a lot of the big groups had already gone by. And basically, I was on my mountain bike. I was getting passed by all the people on gravel bikes. So I was lucky in the fact that I was not mixed in with big groups. So plenty of wrecks. It was, I will say, it was an epic experience. I look back on it, even the 96 miles I made it into, and I'll go back and I wish I would have done 100 instead because I think that was very doable to get that done. It was pretty fantastic. I would, if you get in the lottery and you train appropriately, you have the right mindset, definitely do this event. It's a great event. I think it's very grassroots, and it's tough, and you feel accomplished when you get down there. Like I said, lots of great people. The expo was spectacular. There was so many different parking lots full of expo tents, bike people, local shops. Plenty for the kids to do in the expo and stuff. Kept my 9-year-old busy the entire time. We're going around getting free stuff, doing games, getting free Kona ice. It was great. So expo was perfect. And we got lucky this year. Like I said, it was great weather. I think the highs were in mid 80s. It was sunny. The morning was a little bit cold, but weather was perfect. So you can't really ask for anything better than the weather that we got. What I would do different? So coming from this experience, got the mouse 96, decided I was going to pull the plug, called in the crew for hire to come get me, and within 15-20 minutes they found me, and I got back to my car within an hour and a half, 2 hours. So they dropped me off at the next major aid station, and I got another ride over to the finish line, which I would have done that myself probably would have been, like I said, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning before I got to the finish line, the way things were going. Number one, I packed a little less to carry. I brought 3 inner tubes because there are people with tons of flats. So flats are going to happen. Make sure you have a spare tire kit and inner tubes. So I had 3 of those, but I probably carried a little bit more food than I needed to. I had lots of bars. I had a 2-liter bladder in a Camelback that I carried. Probably didn't need all 2 liters of it. I was probably a little dehydrated at mile 96, but there's enough. There's 4 major aid stations where you can get water refills. So as long as you stay on top of like filling up your water, it really wasn't that bad. Getting into late May in Kansas, it's usually not super hot, not super humid, so it's not as much of a problem. Probably a little bit too much water, too much liquids, too much food kind of packed in there. Other than that, I mean, I had some tools and some other things in there, so I was really kind of going bare bones, but I had a headlamp that I was going to use just in case I was there when it got dark. Definitely bring a headlamp if you plan on being one of the kind of the later people coming in. But I also had an extra headlamp that I probably didn't need. I think my headlamp would have got me just fine. So a few little things I probably would have taken out of the backpack. It's probably 15, 20 pounds. I also would use more of a running style pack that has the straps in the front, so you can put things in front pockets, so it evenly distributes instead of all sitting on my back with the straps and just pulling on my shoulders the entire ride. That did not feel comfortable. So I would consider using a different pack for that. I also, like I kind of previewed, I would probably use a true gravel bike. I would probably do a little bit more research and find a affordable. I think my local bike shop did have some decent gravel bikes for like $800-900 new. So you don't need a $2,000 bike necessarily, but I think a 20-year-old, 30-pound mountain bike was probably not the best choice for this event, especially considering the outliers of the reduction in training availability I had starting a new job currently. Having this go through next weekend, that was going to be a little bit tough on things too. So, and especially here in Kansas, it's tough to get outdoors even during the day. It's not warming up or anything like that. So if you want to ride outdoors, you're going to have to bundle up a lot. Or like I did most of my rides indoors on a trainer, I think having a true gravel bike would have got me significantly quicker on the kind of the flat sections and the rolling sections. I had regular 26-inch mountain bike tires and rolling resistance is crazy. Probably would have done a little bit better on a true gravel bike. Like I said, I would train different. My training was not perfect. It was what I had available. Did a lot of indoor riding. Got up to two times 3 to 4 hours on the bike on the weekends. The best I could do with things going on with the kids, the family, work, life in general. So I would specifically look at ways to capture more time getting outdoors, riding on gravel for longer periods of time. Maybe invest in more cold weather gear, get out there even when it's not comfortable. Get out there and do more riding. Definitely train different. And like I said, if you have questions, more in-depth questions about training, put them in the comments and I'll get back to kind of what my training looked like. I think for the 100, I'd been fine. Like I said, in retrospect, I wish I would have planned ahead, gone back and see what happened with the lottery, then plan my race season, or gone in and check in and just say, hey, I need to bump down to the 100 because the 200 is just not going to happen. I think that would have been fine. I would have had the accomplishment getting finished. I wouldn't have trashed myself for 70.3 Des Moines, and I think it worked out a lot better. But hindsight being 2020, we all can't do what exactly we think about the day after. So that's the one thing I would consider dropping down to 100. So definitely keep that in mind. You could probably drop down. You probably can't move up. So if you're in the 350 and you're like, all right, no way, I need to do the 100, check in, see what you can do. You're like, hey, I know there's no way. Because it's nice, the 100 starts later in the day, the 50 starts later, the 25 starts later, the 200 is earliest in the day at 6:30, the 350 started the day before. So just keep that in mind, especially for the 100 and anything below. You could have checked in a race day, so that might have been a better kind of situation for me specifically. So keep that in mind. Options. Make sure you got options. Like I said, I would have waited to see what the outcome was of the lottery to see about sign up, because with the family, things and activities going on, it would have worked out a lot better probably not to do to 7.3 Des Moines. I would have gone ahead and gutted it through to try to make the cutoff for the 200, trash myself, knowing the next weekend I didn't have a 70.3 race to do that I wanted to feel good at and feel comfortable in finishing. So I would recommend anybody out there looking to do the lottery, especially at this day and age, like, time of this recording is the day before 70.3 Des Moines. I probably could have signed up the Friday before, and it doesn't sell out, and it's not a problem. So unless this event is really going to sell out, like a Chattanooga or something like that, you probably got a little bit of time to wait to see what happens with the lottery to plan out the rest of your season, especially family events and all that other stuff. Let that stuff shake out. Because once you sign up for the lottery, if you get in the lottery, they automatically charge your card for the event. So there's no backing out, no whatsoever. Now you can defer, that would have been an option, but I want to go ahead and do it. Just wish I could drop down to 100. So like I said, I would wait to sign up for other events after I find out what happens to the lottery. And I would consider staying local. Like, you don't even have to stay in Emporia. Like, there's probably housing that could have been found in Emporia. It was right there in town. If you're willing to, like, rent somebody's room out in your house or something like that. But you can use even, like Ottawa, and there's a few towns closer down the road that could have been sufficient places to stay, that it's a 30-minute drive into Emporia or something like that. It's really a straight shot, 35, hit the main road into Emporia, go park, and you're at the event. It's really not that complicated to get to it. Get to the start line. It's a loop race normally. So you start and finish the same place. It's really straightforward. So I'd consider, if I was doing the 200 again, to get a little bit closer to the night before and just go to a hotel. So just get a little bit more sleep and stuff like that. And you're right there. But, it's not to say that I wouldn't just drive down from home again. So I don't know. Consider staying local, especially if you're doing the 200 and the 350 or something like that. Maybe if you do the 100, starts at like 7:30. It's definitely a lot more doable, a lot more plausible. So here's my recommendations. You want to do it? You want to do 200, 100, 350, whatever. Here's my recommendations. Crew for hire. I did self-supported, went down, didn't have anybody else with me. Even if you do have a crew, it's nice because their aid stations were stocked, man. They had donuts, they had hamburgers, cheeseburgers, they had everything. So especially if you don't want to carry a bunch of stuff, sign up for the crew for hire. That way, if something happens, life happens, you're on your own. That's the only way I got picked up on the course. So if you don't have crew for hire and you are needing a SAG in off the course, you got nobody to call, and you got whoever's your support crew, they got to come find you. Some of those places are remote. The crew for hire has Jeeps and other off-road vehicles that can come get you. So definitely strongly consider the crew for hire. They did great for me. Worked out great. The aid stations were stocked. They came and got me. I sagged it in. They had vehicles that brought my bike in. I couldn't say anything better about the crew for hire. They did great. Like I said, you wouldn't need to carry as much nutrition because their aid stations were stocked. I didn't need as much liquids and stuff because, like I said, there's 4 main stops on the 200. So make sure, you kind of plan ahead. If you're not going to have anybody, crew for hire is a great option. You select that at the sign up, or I think you can sign up for it after if you get the lottery. So consider the crew for hire. Have plenty of water. Like I said, it was warm in 2025. Some other years it had been much colder, and hypothermia is a real problem. So they had plenty of water at the aid stations. I could have done just fine if I would have just gone from aid station to aid station. I did not need a 2-liter bladder in my hydration backpack. And the crew for hire, even if you don't crew for hire, the aid stations, you can still fill up on water, porta potties and stuff like that. So that's not a problem. If you have the means, get a solid gravel bike. That would definitely be on tops on my list if I ever consider doing this event again. If I earn the lottery and I get in there, I would definitely either used or something, get a gravel bike and just make sure that I've got that kind of taken off. Because while there were some sections it was nice to have a full suspension mountain bike, it held me back. It was probably a 1 mile per hour difference of people that looked the same fitness level that were speeding by me like it wasn't a problem, but I'm sitting there pedaling away on a full suspension bike, losing all that efficiency, losing the ground contact time, just the rolling resistance. It was ridiculous. So definitely would not consider the flex of riding a full suspension 20-year-old mountain bike if I did do it. So there are plenty of affordable gravel bikes out there. You don't have to go out and buy the $3,000 ones that pop up on your Facebook feed for sale by somebody. Look used, look at your bike shops. Plenty of options, especially here in Kansas City. There's plenty of bike shops that have great options. New bikes, used bikes, whatever. Just get them tuned up, make sure they're in good condition, and go out there. But just be be prepared. There are single track and it is almost like mountain biking out there. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, I would say consider staying local or even like 20 minutes on I-35, just north or south of Emporia. There's plenty of places, plenty of hotels, plenty of other places to stay if you're out of town. They don't have to stay in Emporia. Now, it's pretty cool because they got the expo, they got a lot of stuff going on. They make a whole deal out of it for the entire week. The whole town kind of gets into it. So it's kind of cool to be around there and stuff. But, if you're local, Kansas City, it's not that big of a deal maybe to drive down. But if you're coming from out of town, consider, you don't have to stay in Emporia. You can get other places that are 15, 20 minutes away, and I think do just fine. Um, yeah, terrain. Don't sleep on the terrain. Kansas is not flat. So if you're going to do this race and you're committed to it and you got in a lottery or you qualified for another race or anything, make sure that you know your training and follow through your training. That was the thing. I knew my training but didn't follow through the training. Thought I could kind of wing it, and it kind of bit me in the butt. So make sure that you train, make sure you're prepared, make sure that you are mentally prepared that there is a lot of hills. I believe there's 10 to 12,000 feet of elevation gain on just the 200. So the elevation is real. So make sure you're prepared for that. Well, I will say this, when you're riding through, if you don't want to get caught up in the big groups and the racing atmosphere, I definitely would kind of hang loose on the first 20 to 30 miles and let all those big groups kind of pass you by, and then just take it easy, because then the trails open up, there's options, you're not clustered in, you don't have to hike a bike when there's 30 or 40 people stuck in a mud hole or something like that and everybody has to stop. There's plenty of videos out there of people having to stop, carry their bikes, and that was this year when it was not like that muddy and that nasty. There's some sections that are pretty technical, and if you're in a big group, this is going to be a cluster F. So don't feel like you have to get caught up in racing. It is a quote a race, gravel race, but at the end of the day, you don't have to feel like you have to race it. Kind of survival and being smart on doing your gravel riding, because there's over 200 miles, 100 miles, 50 miles, 25 miles even. There's plenty of opportunities, wide open roads to just floor it as much as possible and get out there. So don't feel like you have to get caught up in those groups because you're in a quote race. Be ready. This year, like I said, was hot. There's a few years ago, it was cold and rainy and people were dealing with hypothermia. So make sure you're paying attention to the weather forecast. Kansas can flip on a dime. So make sure you're prepared with rain gear, cold gear, hot gear, water, all that kind of fun stuff. So just make sure you're ready for that, because Kansas is very variable this time of year. Severe weather is crazy. I will say this about parking. So parking is ample. But get there early if you want a good spot. If you don't have to go a few different blocks to get over to the race area, just be respectful, read the signs, don't park where you're not supposed to. I found a parking lot that was like a block over, and I arrived probably 45 minutes before the race started. So I had plenty of time to get my bike out, get everything ready, get dressed, get over to the porta potty, take our business, get lined up, and then hit the road. So just give yourself a little bit of time. Don't show up last minute or anything like that. Plenty of parking, plenty of opportunities to be close to the race start and race finish area. So don't feel like you have to be flustered and you show up 5 minutes to race time and you're not going to find a parking spot. But there is plenty of parking. It's around neighborhoods. The start is, as long as you're respectful, it shouldn't be a problem. The one last thing I will say, there's a lot of people, at the aid stations, they kind of camp out. And I did this too, just kind of recover for a little bit. So do whatever you need to, whether it's walking the hills, stretch, take breaks, just keep moving. Because at the end of the day, that clock is ticking. As long as you keep moving, I think you'll be pretty successful at beating the cutoffs. I beat the first cutoff, I believe, by 3 or 4 hours. And I was only getting about 13, 14 miles per hour at that point. Beginning, when it was open roads, it was about 15 to 16 miles an hour. Then after, it just kind of went downhill hills and off-road terrain. And then towards the end, I was probably looking at 11 to 12 miles per hour, especially walking up the hills. I was at the point where I wasn't going, probably walk the hills just as fast as I could bike up them, because I had to put in such a low gear. So that's my biggest recommendation, is if you're locked in on finishing, just keep moving at all costs. If you have to walk up a hill, walk up a hill. If you have to walk it through sections that are too technical, walk it through the sections. Stay off the road, keep your head up, keep your head on the swivel. There's lots of people riding around, and there's some people that it's a race, and no matter if they're at the back of the pack, they're going to try to run through it as fast as possible. and they'll do some stupid stuff. So just keep your eye on a swivel, keep moving, and you'll get to that finish line. Just keep faith, keep your head down, keep buckled down, keep focusing on the goal, get to that finish line. So that's kind of my experience. I know hopefully you watched through and this helped you out, answer some questions maybe you had. Like I said, you can go back through this video, got all the tips in there if you want, if you have other questions. Like I said, here's the final thoughts. Personally, I would consider doing it again. I might enter the lottery just to see, and then wait to see about if I get in the lottery or not, consider the rest of my schedule. The hype is real. It was fun. Like, Unbound is a big deal. So I think it was pretty cool to go out there and do this race. I was kind of surprised how big of a deal it was. Probably pretty comparable, like kind of an Ironman race, 7.3 atmosphere. It was a big deal. They make it a big deal. The expo is awesome. A lot of like national, the sponsors coming in, professionals coming in. It's made it a big deal. The expo is awesome. I brought my 9-year-old, like I said, down to check in to get my packet, and she didn't want to leave. There was food, there was Kona Ice, there was games, there was giveaways, there's tons of things to keep her entertained and involved. So expo is pretty awesome. The challenge is no joke. On my final thoughts here. Don't think that you're just going to be, it's just gravel roads. I'm going to go out there and, it's just, farmland. I'm going to go out and ride it and finish it. No problem. It is a real challenge. So make sure you're training it and treating it accordingly. Train. Like I said, personally, I probably could have finished with my 20-year-old mountain bike. Didn't need the $3,000 gravel bike, but like I said, training probably wasn't up to par. And in the back of my mind also, I did not want to trash myself and do a 70.3 that I was committed to doing the weekend after. So the bike made it more difficult than it needed to be, but I think I could have done it. So if you've got a mountain bike and you're like, I don't have the money to invest in another bike, the entry fee is just kind of, that's going to get me, and travel's going to get me. Don't feel like you have to. Like I said, a 20-year-old mountain bike, I serviced it. I made sure it worked, rode it out a few times, had to change several things on it, but it worked. You could do it can't do it on a road bike because there's some technical training. You can do it on a mountain bike, you do it on a gravel bike, but you don't need that high-end gravel bike to do this race. So if you want to spend $2,000 on a gravel bike, go for it, but you don't need to in order to finish this race. If you're self-supported, aside from injury pickup, so if you're injured and they could somehow find race directors or something like that, they'll come pick you up if it's severe and you have to get out of there, lifeline or something crazy. Especially if you're self-supported. Luckily, like I said, I had crew for hire, so I decided to pull plug 96. So all I had to do was call the number and they came and pick me up. But if you're self-supported, you're out there, you're self-supported. So don't think you're going to go out there and kill it, crush it, and even if you mash up your derailleur, you're kind of on your own because they expect you to have your own crew if you're not buying the crew for hire. So if you don't have someone to come pick you up, and if you're some remote located area, and it's like off-road and they need a 4x4 to come get you, you got to bring your bike out of there and they got to pick you up. So make sure that you're prepared. You are self-supported once you get that crew for hire. Even if you have a crew for hire, you're pretty much self-supported on the whole course, except for the 2 major aid stations where the crew for hire is there. You get food and all kinds of other stuff. But you're self-supported. So make sure you got that. It's not an Ironman race where they got aid stations every mile on the round or something like that, and every 20 miles on the bike ride. No, they got 4 major aid stations, especially for 200, 2 water, and then 2 that actually had some food, but mainly for the crew for hire people. So make sure that you're fully aware and I am self-supported. I'm going to go do this event. I got my crew or I got the crew for hire. So make sure you're ready for that. Because other than the aid station areas and the feed areas, your support crew cannot help you. If they do, you're done. So if they pick you up, if they give you a drink, if they give you snacks or something like that on the road somewhere, they consider that outside assistance and you're done. So make sure you read the rules, make sure you read the directions. I don't think it's a huge problem, but you don't want to get caught getting it mile 150 and somebody saw you getting aid from one of your people in a car and then they turned you in. You don't want to be caught there. So self-supported. Wait to make other plans. So if you enter the lottery and there's other things that could happen around that event date, I would wait if you can to sign up for those things. So if you got a race you want to do in the spring, like a 70.3, you got Ironman or something like that you want to do in the spring, but you don't know, usually the lottery winners, or if you're getting entry in another event or something like that, qualification, you should wait to find out if you get in the lottery, because the last thing you want to do, unless you're doing like 50, 25 mile that is well within your wheelhouse, if you're doing 100, 200, 350, it's a big deal. So make sure that you're treating it with the appropriate amount of respect to be able to do the race and be able to finish the race when you sign up. So that'd be the final thought I want to leave you, is make sure you plan accordingly. Give it the time and the energy and the effort that it needs to get done, because it's not just like, oh, gravel and ride bikes, right around the farmland, on gravel roads. It's real. It's not a mountain bike race, but it's not just a simple gravel road. So hopefully gave you some insight to what the race is like. Like I said, I've got regrets that I had other events scheduled around it. I didn't wait to see if I got in or not. I got regrets that I didn't move down to the 100 or even a shorter distance. I got regrets that I didn't train appropriately. I got regrets that I didn't have probably the best bike out there. But at the end of the day, it all works out just fine. Got done mile 96, wasn't hurt. Here I am getting ready to do my 7.3. Everything worked out just fine. It's not the end of the world, but hopefully I gave you a little bit of insight. Like I said, if you got any questions, I know I rambled on a little bit, probably a lot, but if you got any questions like that, let me know in the comments or email me or smoke signals or whatever, and I'll get back to you with helping you out any way I can. With that, we're going to wrap this video up, and I will see you in the next video.